First couch talk for 2020. We've got a heap of local talent, especially in the automotive scene, and we've reached out and got Darcy from Killaboost. Darcy's come from humble beginnings and now his name's spread all across the country in the turbo manifold industry. He's done really well for himself. Get yourself a fruit beer, sit back on the couch and enjoy. We're lucky because Darcy's actually local to us. We've got a few big gems in this town where we are. We're pretty in the automotive scene. We've got some pretty good heavy hitters here. But if you're in the automotive scene and you haven't heard of Darcy, you probably need to. He's built himself up from a small reputation to a big reputation at the moment. He's got some big heavy hitter cars. So thanks for sitting down with us, Darcy.
Thank you, mate.
I guess let's get straight into it because I don't know that much about your background or anything like that. Where did the whole welding fabrication side come from?
Welding fabrication for us started when I was about 15, riding BMX, building foam pits, building BMX ramps. When I was 15 or 16, we couldn't pedal a bike fast enough, a 20-inch push bike, so we built a 2.5-story rolling ramp like you see on the X Games.
Yep.
Dodgy as fuck, so dodgy. We built like a 2.5-story thing, which is 6 and a bit meters, and a run in at a 10 foot. We had a big gap to dirt. Anyone who's ridden a BMX bike, this thing was wild, absolutely wild. And into like starting off stick welding, building BMX ramps, and then we progressed into foam pits and stuff like that. And then from there, took a bit of a break from welding. In the first apprenticeship, being small engine mechanic.
Yep.
At 18 after school, and then didn't get really serious with welding until I was about 23.
So what was the transition, obviously, from doing that stuff? What got you into I know you have somewhat of a colourful past with automobiles back in the day when you were younger, but what dragged you from that into the automotive scene, as into welding in engine bays and things? Like, did it start off doing like shave bays and stuff like that? Because obviously you didn't get straight into the turbo game straight off the bat.
I was the odd one out when we first turned 18 and we all bought cars. I knew nothing.
Yep.
All the boys had Ecotechs in their VSs and the Buicks in their VNs, and I remember I walked out to one of the boys and I went, because I was from a motocross background, I said, "Where's the carby?" And the boys go, "What are you talking about, you fuckhead?" And it turns out, didn't even know what fuel injection was when I was 18, so it all went from there. But it wasn't until I started out as a first-year apprentice as a motorcycle mechanic, and I was still right into my cars, but I wanted to learn how to build engines. So it all started from building engines, 5 litres and Ecotech V6s. The ALS,
real muscle.
The ALS stuff hadn't taken off since then.
Yeah.
It all started there, and then it wasn't until I transitioned into diesel mechanicing, and as a heavy diesel mechanic.
You obviously kept the passion for cars the whole way.
Yeah, just got more money. Had more money to play with bigger cars, and I bought this spur of the moment, like total impulse buy. I bought an orange VE sedan, already turboed. I think the owner was having a ton of problems with it, and he offloaded it for a cash price on a Friday arvo for fuck all. And I thought, right, I'm going to buy it, and then I stuck it all on that car, then flipped the other car, and it all went from there. So welding background, mechanical background turned into, well, this turbo setup is good, and it was working good. Let's build a better one, and that's pretty much where turbocharging and combining mechanical knowledge. That's where it all came from.
So it was literally trial and error from home at the start.
100%. 100%.
So Killaboost, obviously, you're one of the only guys I know that's from a small town that actually, you didn't even have a logo till not that long ago, and you built yourself a big reputation. Like, how did Killaboost start? Because there's a lot of guys out there that have businesses that do the same things that you do, and they haven't got the progression that you have and climbed to. But how did you actually start? Where were you at when you done it?
When it started for me, I reckon I'd done my own car 3 or 4 times, and in that time we were trialling. Like, no one really knew what they were doing in 2013. Well, they did, but it wasn't everywhere.
It wasn't mainstream like it is now.
It wasn't an epidemic like it is now. It was a turbo LS. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
It was different. There was a few guys doing it, like Adam from MPW. He was probably 5 years ahead, I reckon, 4 or 5 years ahead. Like, he was well established when I was only walking around at car meets and going, that car's got it's got a turbo LS. And those guys have been around for a really long time, a lot longer than me. How it all started was I'd done my own car a couple of times, and we broke a lot of shit.
Trial and error.
Everything I built, I broke. Like, the manifolds weren't breaking, but we were breaking engines, and not
So did
from,
you have
not
a
from
big
any.
network then at that time, or it was pretty much just you solo? Like you obviously would have had people that you could bounce ideas off, but was that
Not
more
at
just
all. No ideas were bounced off. No one knew anything.
Yeah, okay. So it's literally trial and error.
Yeah, so no one really knew anything, and well, I guess there was lots of guys still doing it, like Jake's Performance Hub in Canberra. He'd been doing it for a long time. Got the big shops like Russo and all those guys. They've been all doing it. Castle Hill all been doing it, but you know, I was just playing around at home as a diesel mechanic, like after hours. So in between work, breakdowns, all that sort of stuff, I was playing with my car, getting back into welding. I hadn't really touched welding for probably 4 or 5 years.
A question that I'm just going to straight off the topic. What made you keep doing it when a lot of people face trial and errors in their own situations? Why'd you keep doing it?
I had a big life change towards the end of 2014. My dad passed away, and at that time, I wasn't really looking for anything different, but my partner wanted to go to uni up here. So we were in Melbourne. I'd been with my missus for about 3 or 4 years, and I'd been in Melbourne for about 7, and she wanted to move up here, and I thought, well, fuck it, why not? Yeah. And I started working out of my mum's backyard in Tokemall. I had a pretty big shed. And I thought, well, fuck it, I'll buy some gear and I'll have a go. I had no clients. I'd never even done a cashier before, because all my retail jobs, I was a retail mechanic, didn't need to do cashiers. And then when I was a diesel mechanic, as a we were like fleet maintenance. I didn't really do cashiers at all. So I'd never worked for a small business or done any retail work with clients, anything like that. And I just thought, well, I'll give this a go and we'll just see what happens. And at that time, cost of living was pretty low, and I thought, well,
perfect time to do it.
If I fail, I'll push all the gear into mum's shed where it's going to end up anyway.
And if you've continued to do it after failing off that many times and things like that, and obviously there was a passion for it to do it there. And in the LS game and the LS scene, that's when things really started to ramp up.
I think it was probably a coincidence of timing when it when we got in and we started to actually make things work, and that's when it all started to take off.
What was the first car you done besides yours that was a client's?
Exactly the same as mine, black VE ute.
Yeah?
Yep, exactly the same, and it made 1 kilowatt less.
And that was your first big proper paying job?
Yep.
And you did that from mum's?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And how long were you doing it at mum's for?
I think that car took me about 8 or 9 weeks, and after 6 months we got booted by the council. And then I was forced to either pull it up, pack it up and just go back on wages, or no, I went, nah, fuck it. So we ended up getting a shop in Lavey, and that's where we still are.
Yep, so obviously you're in Lavington now. I think you haven't even got signage on the shop now. It's a Pendergast old shop. You come down here, you bit the bullet. It's a big bullet to bite. There's a lot of room for error. How was your first year in business? Because first year in business for a lot of people is scary. I still remember my first year in business, and I'm sure everyone that has a business now can go back to that and relate. How did you come in all guns blazing? Was it straight off the bat? How did you approach your first sort of year?
It was very interesting. There was no rhythm. There was no productivity. I was basically self-taught. In my trade I went into that I'd never even imagine being an electrician under your boss and then just going out and being an electrician for yourself. I'd never done what I did for a job.
Yeah. And there's nothing to fall back on.
Well, there was, pack it up and go back to trucks or small engine.
No, but that can't happen like at a
No, it can't happen overnight when you got expenses and stuff. I don't know. It just happened. It just worked.
Your partner's obviously really supportive. Like she said, go, if you want to go ahead and do it. But at the same time, you packed up and moved down here for her, so that's obviously a big lifestyle change for the both of you. But obviously for her to jump on board and be like, yeah. So now, how long have you been in business for now? How long's Killaboost been alive for now?
We're bang on 5 years legitimate trading. Yep. I've been in it for, I would say about 6. Yep. Been in it for.
How many guys you got working for you now?
There are 4 of us at the moment.
Yeah, and that's each year you've just stepped it up, or is it something in the last 2 years that's just gone bananas? Because I'll be honest, in the last 2 to 3 years is when I've seen your name come up on social media heavy. I don't even think you had much of a social media presence then. It was just people throwing your name out there. That's when I really noticed that your name started getting thrown out there a million times. And it was sort of in the same aspect of, like you said, anything to do with an engine. You say Troy's names get thrown in there. Anything to do with turbos, your name was thrown in there. So is that like the workload, has it just ramped up only recently, or has it been sort of steady from the get-go? The
workload's always been really high, but a lot of the years it was high workload from failed productivity. I wouldn't say failed, but productivity not being where it should be. So jobs piling up, not necessarily being flat out, but not being good enough to get it all done.
Yeah, because that's something you're big on, and I'll give you that. Look, you're big on trial and error of products, and I know like you've done a few of your kits and you've redone them to make them better. What is involved in R&D? Like how much stuff, like how many times you do a kit and you go, it works, but it doesn't work well enough, I want to do it again. Is that something that you're constantly trying to chase?
Usually around 100 hours to develop a kit, and then another 100 to redevelop and redesign, to refine and look at things to be better. We're normally around 100, 120 hours.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people don't understand, because as we were talking before this, you look at a set of manifolds and you go, well, surely it's not that hard to build. Let's just say your entry-based kit that you've got going at the moment that I've seen come out, that went nuts. Obviously, you've done a lot of R&D to get that up to where it is and what you mean to what it is. How many hours is involved in building that kit?
In that kit, there's in that full turbo kit for the VE, there's around I'd have to say around 25 to 30. Yep. And the development is ongoing.
Yep.
For example, we did some so oil temperatures are a really big thing I look at with turbo cars. There's a lot of heat. Heat is the battle with the turbo cars. So, for instance, we did 2 days getting my car ready to go to Canberra, and we drove to Canberra, 46 degree temps, with the aircon on all the way on the Saturday, through bushfires that were like 15 k's in the freeway. I thought, what better time? Better time to do some testing. So and it wasn't even that successful. The car made it. The car did really well, but the whole developing thing and that whole test was not that effective. So 2 days of labour, it was around 20 hours, about $1,000 in parts to do it. That was something that I considered was okay. So that was back to the drawing board. So that's
it's still the fact that you're trying to do that, because a lot of guys will make a product or they'll do something, and then if they're content and it works, they're happy with it. And the fact that you want to keep pushing on, progressing with that, and that's also, I won't talk out of school here, but like a lot of the big businesses in the same field, they've probably done that. They've probably gone out and they've done something and they're happy with it. They're content. They're like, it does its purpose, it does its job, but can we make it better? And they don't worry about it. For you to go out and do that yourself, that's a pretty big thing. But obviously the turbo scene, the blown scene, turbo, everything at these street cars has gone wild over the last 2 years. Everything's filmed in Mexico. Everything's blasted all over the streets. Where can you see, like, how much further can this develop? Like, in all honesty, because the other day we were in your shop and just like seeing the size of the turbos and the amount of workmanship that's come, how much further can this scene explode and push?
I reckon, I see it as only just been scratched a little bit. I reckon there's still a lot more left in it, provided that it doesn't get everything go over to China and mass produced, in which it would probably just be a big fuck up anyway. There's too much development to just go make this. Yep. And in China, with the quality control and things failing and things just not working, it's a big investment for somebody. I've seen a few guys try to do it, but it wasn't real successful.
Yeah, it's not viable.
Well, maybe
it's viable financial-wise, but happy customer-wise and longevity-wise, maybe not yet.
I reckon it's still got a good decade in it.
Do you think it's going to be more doing newer cars, or more everyone's doing the older cars, like obviously the VKs, the VLs, VHs, Fords? Do you think, because in my opinion, everything these days has a turbo on it. Like, when is it going to get to the point that it stops, especially with engine bays these days, because you only got a small limited room. Like, that would have to be your biggest headache. Obviously, going into your shop, you got dummy engines sitting everywhere. Just well, that's another question I want to know for myself. How much time is involved in measuring to see if shit's going to fit?
That's
stupid question.
Being a custom manifold that can go on for days, even in turbo positioning, just where the turbo is going to sit, that can go on for days. But an off-the-shelf manifold that's done with a jig will be considerably less, because we have processes in place that retains everything to be the same the second 100th time round. But you jig something and then you have something come up that's not working, that means all that jig work normally takes around 40 hours to jig a manifold. That'll go in the bin.
That's something let's talk about that, because obviously people look at turbo kits and we all know what a turbo is worth and things like that. but the workmanship behind it and the hours, you got 4 guys going for it, hammer and tongs. But just a generic turbo kit, say for a VB or something like that at the moment, how many hours are involved in it? If one dude was to do the kit, explain what's in the kit. So let's say someone wants to contact you next week, they're going to be like, righto, I've just bought this, I want to buy a kit, I want everything for it. What's involved in the kit? How many hours are involved in it?
No, so for a VB, so early Commodore, we would use, if we could use an off-the-shelf manifold, that's great, that saves us heaps of time, but then we've still got intercooler positioning, intercooler piping, plus whatever's happening with the radiator, where that's going to go. If it's going to be a custom radiator, mounting that, might involve making another rad support, something like that. And then with those cars, I've got a few complications in where and which way you run the dump pipe, which is a turbine outlet pipe into the exhaust.
Yep.
There's complications there. Normally you would have to say, because a lot of it's custom. The manifolds, even off the shelf, around 14 hours. I'd probably do them in 12. You'd probably look at around 40, 45 hours.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand, that work-wise, that's how many hours are.
There's quicker ways to do it, 100%. If you want to get a bit rough or whatever, you can do it quicker.
Yeah, but it's not going to last the time of it, and you know what I mean? If you're paying good dollars for something, you want a good product. That's probably something else too that we should speak on, that your reputation is something that, as I said, it's huge at the moment. Your reputation, you're literally, people don't know Lavy's pretty, Lavy's Lavy. But you've actually built a big reputation out of there. Where is the future for Killaboost? Is this just something you just want to focus on the turbos, or is this something you're going to end up turn around and start doing tubs, or like what? Obviously that is your field at the moment. You're killing your field, you're targeting your audience, and you're producing some of that. Before we go to that question, what are some of the biggest, toughest cars in the country right now that are running all your kits? Like just a few that people are going to know straight off the bat.
Jason Kenny's LS1 Power. It's a baby blue VN. There's Bush and 7s now with a factory ECU.
Yep.
And a pretty basic engine combo, no boost control, no engine management, anything like that. It's about to go 7s. Jason's been pushing. Something always happens. You go to the track, it rains, or gearbox, or something like that. It's going to happen. Cameron Jones's HQ Ute. It's a low 8-second car, and he's trying to shoot for 7s with that thing. So, and also Andy's car has been a really big thing for me as well. Being another local car and being one of my good friends.
Yep.
Doing drag challenge with Andy's been a real highlight of my work. A real fun part. There's lots of low parts, but that's one of the higher ones.
But there'd be a million street cars out there with your kits on it too. That they're not running. They're not big high name quality cars, but they're still tidy street cars with your kits that are doing day in, day out duties and doing it well. But back to what I was asking before, where's your 5-year goal? Well, if you have a 5-year goal, but where's your goal at the moment for Killaboost? Where do you see things going? Where do you want things to go? Because you're driven, you're determined, you're prepared to fail and keep pushing through it. I don't think anything's going to really stop you at the moment. Where do you want to see the business go, and how do you want to tackle it?
5 years, I would really like to get us into a bigger shop. Not more people. I think where we're at people-wise is a good manageable number.
Yep.
Employing 50 people isn't the answer.
Yeah.
Maybe it is in some industries. In ours, I don't think it's the answer to getting things done correctly.
Yep.
I want to get into a bigger shop and spread ourselves out a little bit. Tubs and chassis work, roll cages and stuff, I don't think that'll be us, but you never know.
Yep.
I think we'll probably more specialise and hone in on what we're already doing, but better. Not necessarily like totally globalise everything and mass produce. I still want to do the handcrafted thing. It's a really big thing for me.
You don't want to go from the art of what you're doing at the moment.
I don't want to go out of Australia, like with my product supply and stuff like that. I don't want to outsource my stuff being made outside of Australia. I don't want to outsource to the States or China or mass produce anything like that.
Yep.
I want to maybe look into the American market and freight our stuff to America. I still want it to be all Australian built though. We'll probably broaden our range a little bit with cars, because I know the conversion cars are probably going to start coming in hotter, like X Series Falcons, like Rod Chopper already doing mounts for those things. That's probably going to be an inevitable path that people are going to take if they don't go down the Barra path. And I don't think there's no plans on the table yet to chase down the Barra path or the SR or RB path. There's already a lot of guys doing it. We get along really well with Kyle from 6 Boost, and all those guys are all over it. We haven't really got any intention on pushing that. So it'll probably stay LS for now. And,
You've got your field, you're killing it.
Well, I suppose we'll see what happens. I think GM's going to probably pull up on a lot of manufacturing with engine supply, and it's going to run out eventually. I know in the States it's way bigger than what it is here, but we'll have to wait and see whether companies like Dart, Edelbrock, if they take over casting the GM engine, so the LS engine, casting the heads, the blocks, all the gear. We don't know. Well, I don't know yet. Someone might know, but I don't.
The way people are chewing through LSs, they probably will run out eventually, and someone will probably jump on board because in my opinion, it's a never-ending market. Like it's just, people are always,
It's a big epidemic, the LS market. So I think if GM aren't making the engines, or maybe they will go back to making them, we'll have to wait and see. But I still think that a lot of the aftermarket manufacturers will may go into production of replicating what GM had.
In the future, will you focus on just doing the customer base, or do you get many workshops call you up now and do that route? Is that something that you see you have a big future in?
Yeah, 100%. If we've got quantity orders and stuff like that, if we're doing one set, we might as well do 10. And if there's and it doesn't happen, straight away. Like to build 10 kits is a couple of weeks' work between 4 blokes. So quantity orders and the industry is moving that way. Like general mechanics aren't rebuilding motors anymore.
Yep.
General mechanics aren't rebuilding gearboxes. The gearbox will fail. It'll either be on warranty, I'll send it back to the gearbox builder, or a specialist engine builder will build that engine and the workshop will bring it in and fit it and do the R&R, which is remove and refit. So a lot of those shops are outsourcing their fabrication and all that additional work as well. So we do deal with a lot of shops and have been for a long time.
And do you think that would be a growth thing?
Yep. Even the part suppliers, big guys like Golby. Golby he was around when I first started, but he's grown probably one of the biggest automotive growths that I've seen. Guys like him and all that's sort of starting to take off pretty big as well.
What is it like in the scene? Obviously, is there much between? There's a million guys out there doing turbo kits and things like that. Is all get along pretty well, or is there a bit of biggerness like between everyone, or is usually like people will bounce ideas? Like if you've seen someone might contact you from another workshop and like, hey, I know you've done this before. We're having issues with this. Like, and can you do the same? Like, is it pretty good in that aspect? Obviously, the automotive scene throughout is usually really, really good. Us guys in the collective, we're heavily involved in the burnout scene. We've seen through that, it's usually like, a lot of people stand out, help each other. Drag challenge, people pulling over, they come over, they help with parts. Is it the same sort of in that work aspect? Like everyone will sort of jump on board and bounce each other and like help each other, or?
We don't really communicate with many other fabrication shops. There's no problem there at all. I've never really had any dramas with any of them. Like, not really. It's not like, I think the tuning business is a little bit more cutthroat because there's so many guys in it. So many guys doing it, like drive in, drive out, camshaft jobs and stuff like that, and tuning them. It's really like cutthroat, especially in Sydney. I don't feel there's any politics or anything in our game.
Yep, and obviously you have sporting down there, us in June. Do you do like obviously a lot of trial and error between you? You can go, hey, I've got a wild idea. I'm going to do this, this, and this. Can I run it on the hub? Like, is that obviously that's I've got to be a big benefit to have someone like that.
100%. Having Luke around has been a really big thing for our growth and our development and becoming friends over the years as well. Been really good.
And he's running one. I think both these cars have had your kids on it too, haven't they?
Yeah.
So, I guess that's probably all we got to really talk about. Actually, one more question I want to ask, because there's a lot of guys out there too that'll be starting business or how to just start a business, things like that. A working week. How many hours are involved roughly?
These days, I try to only make it 5 days on a Saturday morning.
Yep.
I'd probably say around 65 to 70.
Yep.
But there's other times when there's 50, and there's other times when you really got to step it up, and there's those 100-hour weeks.
Yep.
It is a thing. It does happen. But the goal is to do your work and make your money in 45 or 50. But learning that, it's an art, man, and it's an art that a lot of guys don't learn or don't master, and it's a real thing.
How many hours spent on the phone? As in phone calls, referring to customers, things like that. Does that chew into a lot of your day? That's why I've got the other. Is that because obviously you've got the expertise there, you know what you're talking about, you know the kits. Let's just say a customer goes out and goes, I want to turbo this car, I don't know much about it. they're going to have a million questions, I'm guessing.
Yep.
So that, like, how many hours do you reckon a week on the phone?
I'd maybe say around 5 or 6. Like you never really sort of write it down.
I know,
I've never written it down.
It's time consuming. Obviously, you never know. This customer might come through and he might have 10 mates that are like jump on. Like you got to put the time into them. Even though sometimes you're speaking to some people and you can tell straight away they're wasting your time on the phone. But you never know.
Oh, you never judge a book by its cover, man. You never know.
Yeah, 100%. But obviously, there's a lot of hours in that. There's a lot of hours in that. Wages, that's something big. Obviously, each week there's a big. Obviously, you have people now that you have guys working for you that have families. That's something that you can't let them down. They can't be let down, sort of thing. So that's another thing you sort of take into consideration in a big way.
Well, I don't think I've never missed I haven't missed a payday yet.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, which has been good. But the wages, like when running a business like your 4 guys, well, with the cost of consumables, materials, and everything else that goes into running a business, tax, super, all that sort of stuff, the wages are probably the least of your problems. But if you're going to start a business, you want to be getting your feet before you start employing people.
Yeah, 100%.
If I had the best...
Let's say there's someone out there that wants to chase their dream in fabrication, whether it's turbo kits or something. What is the best advice right now that you could give to someone that wants to take the leap? They want to go out there, they want to have a crack. They might be in favourable circumstances like you were, like yourself, where you can start off at your mum's, or same as when I started off here, the boys at C&T, I sat at the back of the shed, things like that. Best circumstances, what would you tell them is the best way to approach it? Best
advice I could give is don't quit your day job like I did. What I did was quite reckless.
I did the exact same thing.
We packed up our house and put it in a truck and drove it all over to here. And then I went, right, where's the work? And then I just started doing it, and we got really busy all of a sudden.
At the same time, but that makes you work. That makes you hustle. Because as Trevor would remember, I did the same when I started here. I still remember the day I quit my job and I had no work lined up like the next day for the next week, and I was like,
yep.
I should probably like get a Facebook page going and start doing some work, because it was either fail or get it in.
The best advice I could say is just don't quit your day job. Like, it doesn't matter what you're earning. It's some money. It's stable money. It's what I call safe money. And start your thing on the side. You need to figure out what your costs are, what you should be making, what you're making. If you're not making it, why? Instead of going and renting a shop and having all these expenses and just flogging yourself to death, and then going, well, fuck, I've got no money, or things aren't working. And then all of a sudden you've got all these things that you can't just walk away from. Like if you're renting a shop and you've got all these expenses, maybe accounts around town, stay out of debt. If you've got a lot of debt, get rid of it first. I was fortunate, we still don't have any debt, and I don't really need to have any debt. But there's a lot of guys who, go out and buy flash cars and do all this stuff and spend all this money and go, oh fuck, I've got no work. And then you just need to find your feet. Every circumstance is different. And it all works out for people differently. Like, people might have young kids and, like yourself, got a young little girl, and you can't, just start work at 6 and get home at 7 p.m, do a 13-hour day and bust it hard. Like, you've got dependents, you've got
daycare runs, you've got all the rest of the crap. You've
got things to do. Where I don't have any kids, but that's something I don't have to worry about. But there's guys who have those obstacles, so I suppose you just need to find out what works for you. But I'd highly recommend staying on your unless you have a big falling out and then you quit and go, fucking, I'm working for myself.
Yep.
If you can go and do that, great, and make it work next week, sweet. Like, I had a mate who quit his full-time job and just picked up working for himself, and the next week, he made like over 15 grand in a week. Just hustling hard.
That's luck, but that's
he's just good at his job, He moved from one thing to the next in the same industry, and he made money. But there's lots of guys who jump out and go, I'm gonna, and a lot of them fail, unfortunately. Like, you normally fail in your first 2 years.
Yep.
Apparently, if you go 5, you're pretty much set.
But these days, everything's so cutthroat, especially with social media, and that was something that just came to my head that I was going to ask you about, because I know that you didn't have a very big social media presence at the start.
Not really, no.
You were only you're like, these days, like, any business can start tomorrow, and the first thing they do is start a Facebook page, they invite their friends to it, they get their friends to share. That was something at the start that I'll give it to you, that you didn't do that at the start. You were literally, it was word of mouth and people speaking on your behalf and the quality of your work. now, is this something, because social media now is obviously, if you have a business now, you kind of have to have it. The reach you have is huge. Is this something that you're going to start pushing on social media and things like that? Because obviously you've got a good following as it is. You're only going to continue to get bigger and faster. But is this something you're going to start putting a little bit more focus towards, or it's not really, you just want to do the work and do good work?
Yeah, a little bit, maybe push it a little bit more, but it's not like driving an image on Facebook, like the whole, you can make something that it's not. Like you can make, you see fake Instagram posts and fake this and fake that. I'd never really use that to kick things off. So I feel like, it's still a little bit, like I post a couple of times a week, but it's not really the, a priority.
And it's another thing too, social media chews into your time so much. Because you put a set of turbo manifolds up and then you'll have 67 people messaging, go, price, how much, oh my mates, yada yada, and you got to reply back to them all, because
it'd be awesome to be able to employ someone to answer the phone and answer those questions, but you'll find that not many people in the country have those answers.
Well, actually, in saying that, you employ your mum.
Yep.
So that's a pretty good gig.
Yep.
Especially for mum. How'd that come about?
She was factory working for 15 years, and I said to her years before, I said, maybe at some point you can come work for me. And then she rang me about 2 years later and said, what about that offer? And it's been happy days ever since.
Yeah, and that'd be a good thing, obviously, as you said earlier, your dad's passed, but to have mum in the shop with you all the time, and mum's obviously proud as hell. She's seen your growth, she's seen what you're doing.
She sees me when I'm busy and stressed, and I can be a fucking arsehole, man. I really can. I can be a fucking prick.
But at the same time, I'm sure mum's getting all the lunch runs in and doing all that, and you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you might be a prick, she'd see the stress, she'd see the effort, but you've made it work. Mum would remember you out of the shed.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you know what it's like when you get a bit busy and frustrated and things aren't quite working out. People, when you...
Mate, I'm not like that to my mum, I'm like that to my daughter. Like, you know what I mean? You have a pick up from daycare, I'm in a bad mood, Trev, Brad, all the rest of the boys, we've got kids, so it's like you have a bad day and then you have to deal with the human this high or this high that can't communicate and talk and tells you how the show goes. Like, yeah, I'm sure mum cops the grunt of it, but at the same time, not many people get the opportunity to run a business and then pay their mum a wage and spend all their time with their mum and set mum up.
That's what it's all about. Like, sometimes things get in the shop, like busy, something goes wrong, like,
You're only human.
No, it's good, and mum will always get you the best price around town. Parts, always.
There you
always,
go.
Always.
That's the second best advice. If you're starting a business and you make it, employ your mum straight away.
Should get the best price around town, 100%.
But well, that's it. We'll call it stumps there. We might revisit this later on in the year or even next year, obviously with your growth, because your growth has been so fast, in my opinion, for someone that's watching on social media and the way that it's grown and how quickly it's grown. But that's it from us, guys. Make sure you hit up Darcy's Facebook. You're on Insta as well?
Yep.
On Insta, Killaboost. Don't hit him up with a million questions about turbo kits or how to run a business unless you're legit. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. We've got a few big people that we're going to tackle this year. We will be up with more couch talks, and we've got some really good ripper content coming. And yeah, thank you for watching. And Darcy, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.